So, as we've discovered, we're releasing another version of LabVIEW, or announced it at NI Week. So I really just want to go over some of the key features, talk through some of the kind of stuff that you guys as users will notice when we adopt 2015, and I want to give a brief overview of some of the stuff in the background. So really, in terms of the way that you interface with LabVIEW, nothing's changed on that front. There's just some features that are really going to benefit kind of programming, debugging, and also performance of code as well. So 2015 is run with this tagline of write faster code, write code faster, and hopefully we'll see the reasoning behind that. There's some pretty cool features that have been included. So already, in terms of things like memory footprint, if you're sad like me and really like things like LabVIEW performance and the way things compile in the background, the way that LabVIEW dynamically loads libraries, VIs, controls, panels, everything, palettes, the footprint of that is massively reduced in 2015 by about 8 times. So already kind of loading VIs, loading projects is going to be massively quicker. And the memory that LabVIEW allocates as well is reduced. So I've seen benefits of it opening projects that have become corrupted, for example, or taking handling the load of the operating system. In 2015, it's just dynamically loaded on demand and had no problems. So I've already seen the benefit of that. You guys will.
So anyone use that?
Yeah, has anyone used it yet? That's a good question. No. Cool. So if I just pop into built VI. So there's 4 or 5 main elements that I want to pick out. And if anyone watched the LabVIEW 2015, or if you were there, you saw it, I guess. So I'm going to go into a bit more depth of what Darren, the R&D engineer, and the former world's fastest LabVIEW programmer, had his title taken off and he decided to retire and give someone else a chance. Went through at NI Week, basically the best bits. So I'm going to go into a bit more depth. So I have an application. I'm doing some kind of analysis, some mathematical function, and then I want to graph it. And for example, I run the VI, I run a plot, I appear to be missing data, for example. Okay, so typically I go in and probe, and if anyone's probed arrays before, you'll know how frustrating it is to only view one element. In 2015, we've now got automatically allocated kind of smarter probes. So whatever array you allocate, it will automatically kind of expand to that size. And the same applies to things like clusters, which is quite useful. So rather than having to pick through each individual element, I can now view all the data on demand. That's fairly useful. So I can see in here that I've got some issues with some of the data that I'm acquiring, not in numbers. Okay. So inevitably, that's leading in from my analysis sub-VI. And as well, if you're familiar with kind of the project environment, we can find where things are on files, view directories, things like that. Great new feature is one that kind of encapsulates a few of the examples I want to give is right-Cliq Plugins. And one of those, I'll go into more depth of what they are, but essentially one of those new right-Cliq Plugins essentially gives me the ability to explore on the hard disk where specifically this VI is saved. So, if you want to pinpoint, if you've got something like source code control or you're using some kind of management of VIs, you want to pinpoint exactly where this is from, it can be that fairly easy there. So if I delve into here, there's another right-Cliq plugin that I just want to briefly show off. So before I do, essentially right-Cliq plugins have been developed as kind of the new quick drop as such. So control space, find things really easily with right-Cliq plugins. They're essentially a LabVIEW powered way of customizing the way that you interact in the development environment and in kind of runtime environment. So what you can do is you can create your own LabVIEW script essentially. It says, okay, press right-click on a wire. I want to give X amount of options, for example. Pretty much the ones that are built in with LabVIEW 2015, like transposing arrays upon right clicks, one that I'm going to show you now, which is a remove and rewire function. What else have we got? We've also got something that you can create yourself, and that's the main thing to kind of remember with it, is that it's LabVIEW driven, so it's completely customizable. So I've got on the front panel some data that evidently I'm missing. We've seen from the probe, getting not numbers. So I can see within this code here that I could be dividing by also getting the square root of a negative number, which inevitably could give me not a number rather than some useful value. So I might as well just get rid of this whole logic. So what I can do, I can right click and select remove and rewire. And if you use the quick drop shortcut, you can still use that, but the functionality is there to kind of select code, right click, remove and rewire. So that makes it a lot easier to go in and debug code and write it faster than anything. As well as that, a really cool one which I think people have been crying out for is making space between code bigger and smaller. So now, if I press the control button and I click and drag, the power to make my VI massive. Or if I control alt and click and drag, I can make spacing a lot smaller. So I guess in something like a CLD, that's going to be massively, time saving, things like that, and just general code typing as well. So another one of these right-click plugins that we've got is the ability to pop down an indicator, for example. In this case, I've got a double position float indicator. And if I was to wire this straight up to the array, I get a broken wire. So rather than having to put down an array indicator, what I can now do is I can right-click that indicator, change to array, just like you would change to a control, change to a constant, and now, with a little bit of manipulation, so you've got a 2D array, and simply now, just wire in on the fly pretty much.
So that only creates as a 1D array?
Only as a 1D array, so a 1D array of whatever data type you've got. So, but to be honest, dragging one index down is fairly easy. So, I want to show off kind of the way that the customizable right-click plugins can be implemented, really. There is a dedicated community page that is dedicated to right-click plugins. Same as with like custom quick drop functions, things like that. So one of the great ones, which when CLD is sat with 2015 will be fairly useful if you can implement this, is essentially popping down a control and right-clicking and assigning an event case to a control. So I'll show that. So, for example, we have an event case, and I also have a stop button, for example. So I want to say, when I press the stop button, so the typical way that I'd implement that would be to right-click, add value change, for example. But what I can do now is, using the right-click plugins, right-click, create event case, value change. Okay, and it automatically populate the event structure with the Boolean button and kind of save that time going through, so I can then write my consumer loop and whatnot.
What I know probably would be what happens if you have more than one event structure.
I've not tried it with more than one. It'd be good to try. The key thing to remember is that you can't right-click the control and assign to an event structure if you've not got one there. But yeah, I guess.
Yeah, wouldn't do really.
Yeah, best practice. Remember, let's keep to one. So, if we have something like a flat sequence structure, and I'm just doing this as a very, very rough example. Another right-click plugin that's in the community is, for example, I have data that I just randomly wire into this flat sequence structure for no apparent reason. And say, for example, for some unknown reason, I'm going to use the control click function. Some unknown reason I wanted to make a sub-VI within here. Just take errors in, do some more analysis, for example. What I can do, select number of wires, right-click, create sub-VI from selected wires. So programmatically create the sub-VI rather than having to go to file, edit, create a new VI. Within there, it just populates with the controls and indicators. So now I can pop my case structure in, add my error case, do some analysis within that. So there, kind of my top picks. Got any questions on?
No, well, I don't think you could actually create something on one. You could
select code. Yeah, you could select code. But essentially, with the right Cliq plugins, it is LabVIEW code, and you pop it in a very simple directory within LabVIEW National Instruments. There's a specific folder structure for third-party plugins.
An example of how to do that?
Not an example of. I can find the folder structure for you. I can remember. Testing me now. But I guess this is going to be for like you guys that do like custom implementations. If I can find it now, I will try. There's a strict, not strict template, like a template that you have to follow. Essentially, make it strict, and then you run the VI within the example. Let's see. Resource. Plugin controls. So plugins. And then we are here. Menus. There we go. Yeah. So simple folder structure, when you remember it, there is a README file on about it. But essentially, we have this VI that essentially says, okay, you've made your plugin, specify a name, specify when you want to be able to use it, and then specify the path. Essentially, what you do is make a library file, specify that, and it will create. I don't actually know what it does in the background, but it essentially puts it into a form factor of being able to use it at runtime or in development. So quite a powerful tool. I see this being very useful for a lot of customers that make bespoke indicators from panels, things like that. And then really the last thing that I want to show was something that I only found out about the other day, but hopefully you're familiar with Measurement and Automation Explorer Max. Working in AE, we see a lot of kind of issues with people in terms of connectivity with Compact Rio, things like that. So
I'll jump in a quick thing to say, a lot of times when people start getting startup with my Rios, you'll find that they get quite nice to troubleshoot.
That's all right. No. Education's a good example. You run into things like certificates, like network certificates and things like that. Eduroam doesn't always play ball, but now kind of to negate, to really help the user to detect kind of compact Rios, flex Rios, things like that. And we can kind of take the element of NI support away and give it to the user. So we have this thing within remote systems called Troubleshoot Remote System Discovery. Now this is a tool that was initially developed by the R&D guys in the US, and they found it so useful that they thought, let's put it out as release. Essentially what it allows you to do is kind of do some initial troubleshooting steps as to why you can't see a Rio, why you can't see a flex Rio. It also allows for some compatibility checks and things like that. So for example, I've got a My Rio just connected up by USB. Is there anything that I could steal that was theoretically mine? So if I specify the type as My Rio, and I've got a 1900 here. So imagine that I can't see it in Max, for example, which I can. So I can specify a version of LabVIEW. So sometimes you can get incompatibilities between versions of real-time, versions of LabVIEW and the actual device. But from what I've just pressed, it's gathered that I'm using 2015, gathered I'm using a My Rio, it looks like I'm all good. Okay. So everything's compatible as such. Firewalls can be another thing that can be an issue, as well as just the connection itself. But as I'm being told, I'm not being blocked by a firewall, so that's not a reason for me not to see something. Obviously, if we've got a big red X, I'd know to go and disable firewall. And then it'll go through that and say, okay, I'll look for a specific system, and luckily it appears here. However, if it doesn't be detected, if it isn't detected, then it takes you through some more in-depth troubleshooting steps to kind of go through, have you done this, that, the other. Obviously give me a call, can't see it. But yeah, like I say, the really cool features in 2015, a lot of performance enhancements as well. The last one that I really just wanted to just show was things like buffer allocations in the background of LabVIEW can really impact performance. And up until 2015, all you've been able to do is really just, if I get this VI, is really just view where buffers are created as such. So you can see the little black dots showing where the buffers are being created. There's been really no real way to measure what the buffers are doing and why I might get in behind. But now, within the profile section where our buffer allocations is, we can have this profile buffer allocation option. So I can choose to define the size of buffer that I want to detect. So I'll just go for 1K, up to megabytes. Start this tool running. If I just run SBI, okay, so inevitably I have some buffering within here. Go back into the tool, if I can find it, just there. Stop it. Now I've got my buffers all profiled. Now what we'll see is pick out some useful. You can see that this buffer here is being pretty constant all the way through. Some may step up where I'm reading data. So if I realise that I have an issue with memory, I think it might be this, I can then say, okay, so I know it's this buffer. This buffer is being affected by this VI, directly specifically to the sub VI that contains. And then I can approach it in the sense of I know specifically where something like a memory leak is happening or where I'm kind of overusing functions. So pretty useful, especially in debugging sense. And that's it really. I mean, if anyone's got any questions at all.
Does it have 15 as well?
On the icon, it does down there. Not on the splash screen there, which does bug me out with that there. But anyway, yeah. Any other questions?
I'll jump in before we finish up. One of the other things that I'm keen to do is, so before another week, there is a global sales conference. So everyone from sales across the world, listening from marketing and R&D. And we have an R&D expo where there's essentially 40 booths with all the key main stakeholders in all the different R&D departments who present to us what they're working on and what they're planning on making. Now, I basically took all the titles for all those R&D groups and shoved them down on a bit of paper. I want to use this as a way for us to actually target what would be useful for you guys to know about next time that we're here. So there's no real form factor or any way to do these things, but if you guys want to just put your name or your company down and tick off what you want to know about, if any of these seem relevant. If you don't know what any of them are, then just grab me at the end or during a break, whatever it might be, and ask me if any of these, what some of them are. And then we can go through and figure out what would be useful for you guys to know about next time here. And I can actually set the ball rolling and asking some questions and finding out some useful information for next time. So I'll pass these around, you guys can fill them in your own time, and I'll grab them at the end, if that's all right. Right, it's only a ticking, and we don't have to write down any notes on anything, so I'll just pass it around.
Is there any idea of what's going to happen here in the next year then? You've got 15 now. Are you allowed to say what you're pushing on to 16 for now? Or? 15's out. Let's use that for a bit and then we'll worry about it later.
I mean, the feedback's always welcome. So if there's things that you guys want to see in 2016 or SP1 or on anything at all, whether there's things you guys want to see in instruments or software, then just let me know.
So you get the ideas exchange as well on the community. A lot of like the Cliq plugin stuff was suggested specifically by 99 and forums, things like that.
But personally now, there's been a bit of a shift change in NI where it's easier for us to collaborate with people around the world. There's been a process change. It probably doesn't affect you guys at all. It's probably make it easier. So in fact, it's easy now for me to give feedback to people with their feedback from when it's available. So anything you guys do have in terms of feedback or any discussion or anything like that, just let me know. Cool. Nice one. Thanks guys. Appreciate it.